Welcome back to Chess for Rookies. In this episode of Chess Openings for Beginners, we'll be covering the Queen's Gambit Declined. Like all the other openings I've showed so far, this is a very solid opening where you won't be worse coming out of the opening, and you will be in a position where you have plenty of chances to win. Now, let's get into the video. The Queen's Gambit Declined is only playable against the move pawn to d4. Common move here for black is knight to f6. However, today we'll be going over d5, which makes the Queen's Gambit. This is a very solid move that prevents white's pawn from advancing any further, and also opens the diagonal for the c8 bishop. Bishop to f4 is a move, which is the London system, which I showed in my earlier video. However, the most common move is c4, which helps white gain control over the center. It may seem like white is just giving up a free pawn, because after pawn takes c4, white can go e3, and there's no way for black to keep this pawn. However, in this position, it may be a trade of pawns, but white gains more control over the center than what will happen in the Queen's Gambit Decline, which would be pawn to e6 after pawn to c4. Knight to f3 and knight to c3 will probably lead to the same position, so let's say white goes knight to c3. Knight to f6. This is a good move because it supports the d5 pawn, because it's attacked twice. And now it can also be prepared to jump to e4, even though it can't do that yet because knight takes, pawn takes is not a great position for you. If this knight were to move, this would be a great outpost square. Knight to f3. Now black would go bishop to e7, good developing move, and now you're preparing to castle. Here white can go bishop to f4 or bishop to g5, but it doesn't really matter because you can go castles on either move. So let's say bishop g5, castles, and now pawn to e3. They're trying to develop their bishop, and now if you take their pawn, they can take right back. Here I like this move pawn to h6. This is a very instructive move because it attacks this bishop on g5 and gives your king a chance to have an escape square for later in the game so you don't get back ranked checkmate. However, it is also good if you don't play this and just develop your pieces, but the position will be very similar in either case, and h6 is just a free move that you can add in without anything happening. So they will probably just retreat bishop to h4, and you can go knight b d7, developing your pieces. They will probably go bishop to e2, because they also want a castle. And now you can play this move, pawn to b6, so you can fianchetto your bishop to b7. This may seem like a strange pawn move, because why would you play this move? Don't you want to develop your bishop this way? However, this e6 pawn blocks your bishop from developing this way, and you can never push e5 because they have two defenders on the square. So you can go b6 and now bishop to b7, because b7 is the longest diagonal on the board, which could be very dangerous after the pieces clear out, and you can have a potential attack on this g2 square. This may seem very far out, but it definitely could become a threat later in the game. So white castles, and you can go bishop to b7. This is a very standard solid position for black. If you can get into this position, or a position where you have the same moves, it is hard to imagine that you are in a worse position. As I've said with my other opening videos, knowing the moves is more important than the correct move order. If you can get your knight to f6 and your other knight to d7, your bishops to e7 and b7 without losing material, you will be in a position where you have plenty of chances to win. Because you have this nice bishop on b7, because eventually you can go takes, I say white makes a move, you can go takes, takes, and all of a sudden this bishop is super open to attacking the king, and now you're definitely have great chances to win just because of this. Thank you for watching the video. Subscribe to the channel if this was helpful, and if you want to watch more episodes that will be dropping soon. Thank you.